Here it is, episode 3. Or as Alvin says, episode 2, part 2. Because the stream name didn't get changed. I don't know why. And I'm going to cough, so let me see if I can hit this mute button. Okay, so I think I have audio this time. I see the meter bouncing up and down over here without the mute sign, so feeling pretty good about that. And here we are with episode, technically the third episode, episode 2, part 2, whatever we want to call it. And part of this crazy experiment of me live streaming code. And learning a lot along the way, learning a lot about streaming and the complications of doing that and writing code while I'm live streaming. And I'm hopefully getting better. Hopefully learning how to think and stream at the same time. And you know what? Let's switch this here to... So now we can see the chat on that window there. I like that screen a little better. So in the last episode, ran into some trouble, which I think is going to probably be the case most of the time. I hate to say, but it's not so simple. Excuse me. And coding in an hour is definitely proving to be more challenging than I thought, trying to keep this stream at an hour. And I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do that is. One idea is, well, what I've been doing is just trying to go for it in an hour and see what happens and what works and what doesn't work. The other idea is for me to sort of practice things in advance and then figure out what works and what doesn't and then stream it out. But I don't think that's what I really want to do. I think it would be better to have some problems along the way and just see what happens. But it's a learning curve. So last time, let me just take a look. I wrote some notes here because last time I had some problems with the release pipeline, and I kind of thought I knew what the problem was, and I was correct. I actually fixed it afterwards because I didn't really want to spend a lot of time in here fixing that particular problem. I fixed it right afterwards, and it was really kind of what I thought it was going to be. And I do want to show everybody what I did to fix that. And so let's go to... So let's take a look at my screen here. This is the pipeline. And if I went to the build pipeline and I edit it, and again, as you know, you've seen this before. Whoa, what's going on here? That doesn't look good. That is blank. What did I click? I thought I clicked edit. Let's try that again. I've got my little theme song there stuck in my head. That is a catchy tune. So why isn't this thing showing up here when I do edit? That's a little freaky. Let me try just refreshing this whole screen. Maybe something's wacky with my browser. Once again, nothing ever really works perfectly in a live stream. And there it comes. All right. Is that theme performed by Swami? That theme is not performed by me. Although I've been thinking that it would be really cool to write my own theme song. And I have a band. I'm using air quotes there for my band because it's a bunch of guys that like to get together in a basement and play rock and roll. And I'm, you know, if this goes on for a while, maybe I'll write my own theme song. I got that theme song from, what is that website called? Let me think about what that is called. One of these websites where you just go and you ask people, you know, like you pay money, you can download songs and themes. And you know what it was? It might have been Audio Jungle. let's see. That's where I got my sad trombone from. Might have been from Audio Jungle. Yeah, I think this is where I got it. And you can go to Audio Jungle and you can look for like music. And I went to music and rock. It might still be here for someone else to get. And it was called, I don't know what it was called. I got to remember. But I bought it on here. And it was like the first one. It was like right there, like boom. And I was like, that is awesome. It had like the rockin' beat that I wanted. And I bought it on Audio Jungle, and now I have the rights to it. Although it's not exclusive rights, so anybody else can find it and use it for their their stream too if they want. So what did I change to make that build work? So let me just look. I have some notes here. So I changed the MS build arguments. Build. You know what I can do? I think it would make sense to take a look at the repo. So I'm going to go to github.com. Because this gets checked in, I can really just do like a compare and see what is different. Now, how do I do that? I never use, that's going to be, how do I see? I guess if I go to, let's see. These were all 7 days ago, so it took me a couple of changes. But does this show? Yeah, so this is the diff here. So I changed the output starting directory, and I put it in a folder called build, but I don't think that's the only change. I'm going to go back to, wonder if I can see all the changes from here to there. That ain't it. That ain't it. Maybe it was, did I do this one? So package is a single file. I changed that to false. And that's because I wanted to be able to have the different web apps separated. And I was toying with that at the time. I thought that might have had something to do with it. Then I also, is that the only change? I feel like I did more than one. So I changed this there. Let's go back. And then here, I added this build folder. So once I separated out those specific project-specific output folder and that kind of stuff, once I did that, then the real key, this generated the right stuff we wanted to see in here. And then the real key was in releases. If I edit the release, I changed the path in here. And instead of pointing at like the whole folder, I go right into the drop and look at the apps, and I created an apps folder in there, Swami Streams Web, ASP.NET Zip, because in here, I think I'll be able to see it. In here, there are apps. This is the ASP.NET Zip. Here's the Web API zip that I'm going to also be creating, right? And I don't want to deploy that into the same exact website. And once I did that, it was good. And I knew it was going to be something small like that. So, enough about all that. I keep saying I want to add some features to this application. And I haven't done it yet. So, I think that's the idea. So, what I really want to do, again, this isn't a super complicated website, but what I want to do is create like a catalog of the streams and stuff like that. And in preparation for that, behind the scenes, I did create in SQL Server here an episodes table that has a few columns. Has the ID of the episode, the air date, the title, the details, the archive URL, tags, and then a couple of fields that I tend to put on a lot of database tables, like create date, created by, update date, and updated by, which are probably not necessary for this code, but I want to try to keep this like realistic. And so a lot of organizations have rules that like, or at least best practices that you want to put that kind of what I call them audit fields on database tables. And so I'm just taking a look at some stuff here. So lots going on here. So the so I put those columns on here because I want to try to have real world examples, and then the idea is that I'm going to render that on the page. And so really to get started with doing that, I'm going to have a ASP.NET application. The ASP.NET application is going to call into like a backing service. Now there's a web API, but I don't know if I really need to use that yet. I'm going to add another project here and get started with this code. So I guess I'll create a .NET Core class library. Class library. There's so many choices in here. Where's the one I want? Make it easier. Well, that's not really going to do much, but this is what I want. Class library .NET Core. So I'll create a .NET Core class library. I am going to call it. I'm going to call it Swami Streams .backend. For lack of a better name, this is just going to be the back end for the where all the data and all the business logic goes for the application. So I'll do that. Okay, and so I hate that it creates as class 1, by the way. I assume I'm not the only person that hates that. Okay. So essentially what's going to happen is on my main page, back in the ASP.NET thing, in the home controller, before I return the view, and I'm just going to put like comments around this thing to start sort of mocking out how this thing's going to work. And so what I'm going to say is right here I want to get list of old shows to display. Okay, so I'm going to do that first, right? And I'm going to have to call into some kind of service to do that. So what I'm going to do is in the back end, I'm going to create some folders in here. And so I like to follow the orchestrator pattern, and that will make itself pretty clear in a minute. So I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call this orchestrators. And hang on one sec as I take a look at something. I just want to make sure that things with the stream are running along. Does seem to be ticking along, so that's good. Okay, so I'm going to create this folder called orchestrators, and this will all make a little more sense in a minute, but I'm going to call this the folder. I'm going to create a new, oh wow. It's funny how I keep thinking I have the same setup. I have different setups at work and home and Visual Studio even, and I'm used to things being a little differently. Well, let's just add a class. And I'm going to call this thing the show history, but the episode history. Episode history orchestrator. Orchestrator. Yes. Okay. So I have this class. Let's make it public. Episode history orchestrator. Now in this orchestrator, I'm going to need to do some stuff. So the first thing might be, well, let's get a method in here, right? So I'm going to say I want a method called public. I'll leave it void for now. We'll obviously have to change that. I'm going to call this get history. Okay. Now, let's assume that I want to take some parameters because I want to have maybe paging on here. You know what? Let's not even worry about paging yet. We can come back to that because that's just going to make it more complicated, right? So I'll put even in to do in here. To do implement paging too. Okay. So what I want to do is essentially I want to get steps. I want to get the data for the shows. I want to convert, this is going to be pretty simple, convert the data to DTOs, and I want to return the data. Okay, so I tend to write applications in a pretty complicated way, but so this is going to reflect a lot of that. So what would be next? So the next thing I want to do, so I tend to start at the top like this and think about what I'm going to do. And then I sort of work from the bottom up. And I think about maybe entity framework and how I'm going to get this data in and out of the database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here and I'm going to create another folder. And I usually call it like, what do I usually call it? Model. Call it the model. Why not? It's a good name for anything else. So this is where the data will come from, right? And in here, I'm going to add a class, and I'm going to call this the, well, I need an entity, and I had that episodes table in here. So I'm going to create an episode entity. I'll call it episode. Okay. And I'll make it public. Public class episode. Episode is going to have an ID property first with, okay, and then we're going to have, and I do property tab just to do the simple, creating of those snippets or whatever that is, or executing those snippets. So I'm going to have a string that's going to be called title. I hope that's what I called it. Why don't I do this? Just for the sake of this thing. That's funny how Solution Explorer came so big. Just to do this, so title, air date, right? So I have public. I don't know why I put air date as the first column in the database. It just seems out of normal. Date time, air date, get set. Do I have the thing there? I don't like this because I can't see the whole thing. Let's get rid of that. There we go. And let's just keep going for like, this will be details, and got archive URL, that's also string, and tags. I thought it would be interesting to have tags on there. Again, this is probably something I shouldn't even put in here on day one, but the idea is that I could tag shows with certain things and make it easy to find things. And then last, I need the created by field and the updated by. And I'll make one for date time, create date. This part doesn't take too long to do, really. It's just a little busy work. And I thought about, should I do this stuff in advance? You know, should I be putting this stuff together? But I think the idea behind this live streaming code stuff, although I guess I could do whatever I want, is that I'm supposed to, let me just close this here. I don't want that. Why is that? Okay. I guess I can do whatever I want. Now, update date is going to be nullable because it might not be updated. So let's do this for now. That's my entity. Okay. And so I have this class. There it is. Class episode. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another class, and I'm going to call this the, what did I name that database? The database is called Swami Streams, right? Okay, fine. So I'll call this the Swami Streams DB context. And I'll bet I need to add a reference to entity framework, but I'm not really sure. So let's see. I'd be Really surprised if it's in here. No packages found, so that's clear. Entity framework should come up pretty quick. Entity framework core 3.1. I guess that's what I want. Let's install that. Yeah. Take all that stuff and say yes. So what's going on, people? I feel like I should say right now, if you're watching along, and I appreciate your being here, do me a favor, and if you're watching on Mixer or Twitch, please follow the channel. If you're on YouTube, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. There's no cost for any of that. This is all free. You get what you pay for, but it's all free. And if you like the episode, you like it or thumbs up or whatever you can do on all these different platforms. I appreciate it. So let's see, Entity Framework is in. You like the way I do that, like while something's happening? That's going to be, I think that's like a cool way to do it. So I want to make this a, now, do I have, yeah, okay. So that's going to be my DB context. Swami Streams DB context, right? And again, I feel like I always have to look these things up when I create them. But in this case, let's see what I want to do. I want to have. I think I'm getting this right. Is that right? A DB set? It's not. Is it just DB set? DB set of episodes. Okay. And this will be how we'll get those DB sets. Now, I always forget how do I create this. You know what I have? I have some other stuff around. I'm keeping in the background just some other solutions that I can look at for, because typically when I'm writing code, I full disclosure, I don't know what the heck all the text needs to be, all the code needs to be. And so what do we do when we're writing code? We look at Google, we look at examples from our previous libraries and other things we've written, and we copy and paste a lot of stuff. I do have some other stuff, and I thought I would probably use this. So yeah, this is one of the things I need right here. I need to do, let's see, I need to do something like this. So this is going to be called, so you need to have these options, or at least, I don't know if you have to do this, but I try to have an overloaded constructor that allows me to insert DB context options in. And it's going to call the base constructor options and things like that. And that can be helpful. So that might actually be all I need. Well, I'll need a connection string. I will need a connection string. So, and that is another one of those things that I always forget what the format is for them, especially now that things are in JavaScript and all this kind of stuff. So what I'm going to need to do is in my project, yeah, I'm cheating. I'm looking at some other stuff here. Where is the... Yeah, okay, so app settings. So I got an app settings in my ASP.NET project. And in here, I want to add something. So let's see, I got logging. So I guess I'm going to do connection strings. And I can never get used to, I still am not used to, these JSON things where everything is in quotes. Seems like a pain in the neck, doesn't it? If you're like me. So I'm going to put a set of connection strings in here, and this one's going to be called the Swami Streams Connection. And yes, I am looking on another screen and copying this. So the server is going to be called, I think think I can use dot from my local server. Let's hope that that works. Database equals Swami streams, and I'll say trusted, and I think I'm going to use a trusted connection, which means that it's going to connect as me. And for debugging, I don't think that's a bad practice to follow. Now, when I deploy this, obviously I'll have to change the connection string and stuff like that, but then I'll have to set up permissions. So I have that, and I have this. Now, this isn't going to be the way I want to write this application, but I am tempted to know if it works. So what I'm going to do right now is create an instance of my database context. So I'll say this is just temp and will be refactored out, because this is not the way I want to do it. But I'm going to put my database context right in here, which I think is a terrible thing to do, and I'll explain more about that later. Swami streams db context. Let's say context equals new. And I'll need to put options in there, but I thought I could use like the default options. Maybe I can add a default constructor also. I think base, yes, here's a base one, right? Do I need to do that? Not marked as, maybe I don't even need, I thought I wouldn't need it because the base class has it. You know what? It's funny how when you're live coding, your brain stops working from the things that you know pretty well. Well, I know why, duh, because I don't have a method on it. There you go. Okay, so this again is just to see if this is going to work. So I'm going to do, let's see, the orchestrator is going to say context dot add. I'm just going to add something into here. Oh, no, not context dot add. Context dot episodes dot add new episode. I hope I put some of these things as nullable. So I'll say title equals test. Let's just see if this works. I think it'll fail, but I think it might give us an indication of whether it would work. And let's do context dot save changes. I'm not even going to do it asynchronously because this is going to be garbage code. And let's see what happens if I run this. So now, in order to call this, my home controller here needs to have a reference to the back end. So let's add a project reference, and I can do that by going to add reference, and I'll add a reference to back end. And let's see. Just looking at some stuff here, always checking the stream. It's always like tricky to know if things are working right. All right, so added a reference to that. So now I should be able to say something like, again, this is just to fake test it here. I'm going to say episode history orchestrator. Let's see if it likes that. No, did I? Episode history orchestrator. not know about that. Did I not compile this or something like that? I added a dependency, and there's an exclamation point, which must mean something, but maybe I need to like compile or something like that. I don't know. Build failed. Yeah, all right, sorry. Let's get rid of that for now. Aha! Cannot be referenced by a project that targets .NET Core app. Oh my God. This is 3.1. I've been having a lot of trouble with these settings and stuff like that, because I guess when you create this one, it uses a default of 3.0. When I created this one, it used a default of 3.1. So because of that, I'm just gonna try that and see what it works. So I'm changing it to 3. This is something that seems to get me a lot. Yeah, build succeeded. Okay, good. You know what I like to do? I like to close everything all the time because I get freaked out by like noise and busyness and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. So let's go back to my home controller and let's see now if it finds that. And there, of course, is my using statement. All right. So o dot get history. And let's see, there's a good chance that this will not work, but let's find out. Hey, and if you're free tonight, the Dev Talk Show will be on at about 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be, that's the Dev Talk Show. Oh, okay, so we're up here. The Dev Talk Show is a show that I do with a couple friends, and, well, it doesn't matter what this, I was going to drag the UI on here, but it doesn't matter. So let's see, let's step into this fun thing. So get history, and let's see, it does that. And no database provider has been configured for this DB context. A provider can be configured by overrunning on configuring method. Well, you know what I didn't do, right? So, I didn't do this add DB context stuff, which I probably should be using, which is sort of the .NET Core way of doing things. And I kind of jumped right into testing this, but this is probably not the right way to do this. So in a .NET Core way of doing things, let's take a look at that, because I've done this like once, but I am not that familiar with it. And so we're going to discover how to do this together. So .NET, let's do ASP.NET Core set data DB context or something like that. Hopefully that'll bring us up. So we're looking for something that says use. Yeah, see, I didn't set this stuff, right? I didn't do these things, which is probably not a good idea. There was that options builder that I needed to do, and I did not. So the way to do, let's see, your application can now pass DB context options instantiating. So typically what you do is you do this stuff in the startup. And I'm going to use it with dependency injection anyway. So if I go to my startup, I have like enough, I have some knowledge of this to be dangerous, but definitely not that I know exactly. But in here, we're going to come in here and do something. So I believe we want to do configure services and do add this thing. Except, let's just see if there's an example that'll make it even easier for me to cut and paste. I think I'm going to just do this. So that's not what I want. This is what I want. Configure services. Now, hopefully I have one of those already. Do I have configure services? Okay. Now, this is going to get... This is not right. DB... What do I call it? Shwami. There's no chance I'm going to get this done in an hour, is there? Shwami streams DB context. Okay, so I've got the context in there, and this is going to be like use SQL Server, I think. And I probably need to add another reference in here because I added an entity framework to here, but I didn't add entity framework. There's an entity framework SQL. I'm pretty sure I need to add that too. This one doesn't have entity framework because that was in the back end. So let's add entity, what do I type in here? Entity framework. Let's try and see if that finds what I'm looking for. Yeah, entity framework core SQL Server. Let's install that. I'm a little worried about this version 3.1. Is that going to have conflicts as well? I don't know, honestly. So I'm thinking, you know, and I've been thinking about this a lot between last show and this show, is like how much stuff can I expect to get done in an episode? And then I started to think, how much stuff do I actually get done at work in an hour? And I think we all know the sad answer to that is not that much gets done in an hour at work. Doesn't say use SQL on here, does it? Use, I thought there was like a SQL. All right, so that wasn't what I thought it was going to be anyway. So I'm going to go back to this example here and see if I can do something else and say SQL Server. Put SQL Server into the thing. This might be good. What is this? This has not been updated. This is not what I want, I guess. The problem with these things is, you know, who knows how old these things are. Things are changing so much in the world of Entity Framework and .NET Core and stuff like that. And this one, I saw something about Visual Studio 2015, so I know that's not right. This is probably the one I was just on. No. Let's see. Again, I'm just going to find Option Builder. Here's this Option Builder use SQL Server. This isn't going to use the... This is putting that same kind of stuff, adding migration, working with data. This isn't the kind of stuff I'm looking for either. But I wonder if I can make it work if I say use SQL Server in the, just again, this is just a test, a very rough test. Where was that use SQL Server? Was that in the on configuring? Let's grab this whole thing. So I'll take my connection string because this doesn't have a reference to the SQL Server thing. So let's do this. I can go to manage NuGet packages for the solution and say this needs to go into the back end. And probably a good idea to have that in there. And this is the kind of stuff that I don't know. This is the kind of stuff I really want to be doing on a live stream, to be perfectly honest. I'd really rather do some more like stuff that you're not going to just copy out of, which is what I'm doing. I'm just copying this stuff from Google for some of this. And yeah, let's do this. So now that I did that, it's possible that this might work. I don't know if I think I broke this at all. So, well, let's just try it and see what happens. We should have a breakpoint in there. Yeah, okay. And I wouldn't be upset if I got an error that said something like I had a nullable value in my entity or something like that. That really wouldn't upset me because that would just show that it's actually working and it's smart enough that the database is getting pissed off. So so if I do this now and save changes, look at that. Does that get me that far last time? No. Exception is thrown on a stack. Let's see. What the heck is parse internal? Oh boy, that looks like trouble. How do I make this bigger? It's awfully hard to read at this size, isn't it? What if I just let it go? Will it bubble up to, here we go. Trusted connection is not supported. Okay, so that's not bad. I mean, it's not good. But what is it supposed to be? What did this guy use? Trusted underscore connection. So that might even be a change. I don't know because I'm just curious. Some of that I copied from my, oh yeah, that's trusted underscore connection. Look at that. Never a dull moment here, huh? Excuse me. Got a little bit of a sneezing thing going on this week. So we're going to try this again. Da, 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 and see what happens. Hey, look, that was actually timed pretty well. Okay. I am going to amuse myself if no one else because I got to be here all day with me. And you don't. So let's see what happens when I hit save changes. Oh, look at that. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty good. The conversion of a datetime2 data type on a datetime data type was resulted out of range. Now, I've seen that error before, that datetime2. So that is a pretty good sign that I'm actually connected to my database. And now I just have to remember how to... I think that's because I chose this date. I'm going to change this to date time. The air date won't matter. I think it has to do with that. I kind of forget how to use this date object. Yeah, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Oh, you know, the joys of SQL Server. Oh, what did I just do? Let's go back to here. Let's just script this. I think there's like a script. Stretch. What does that do? No idea. I thought, here we go. Script table as create to there. And I'll change this to a date time. I think that's going to fix the problem. Date. Okay, and now I'm going to go and drop this object. Delete. Okay, and I'm going to run this. I'll keep that around in case we need it again. Refresh. Okay, so let's try it again. these are those little getting started glitches that, like, you know, things get in the way. And it's not so simple. And if I just created a table with an ID and a name, I probably wouldn't run into that. I should have done like a very minimum viable product sort of thing. What do we got here? Conversion of date time to data type. So it's still, what is that? I'll tell you what. So let's do what I was just saying. Let's get rid of all that stuff and let's go to, first of all, let's just do this. And I'm going to get rid of all those columns, get rid of my comma. I'm going to drop my table again because I don't really care. I'm at the point, and you guys have probably been there before, where you just want this thing to work, right? This is supposed to be the easy part, and that's just the way things go. So I've reduced it to just having an ID and a title. And what does that mean? Cannot use text image. Oh, table. Good God, what does that mean? Text image on a table has no text. What the heck? Must have something to do with, what's this here, I think. I don't know. Comma. Yeah. I guess there was something down here. I said text image on, and I think that has to do with this varchar max, whatever it was. My table is in here now. Refresh. And I've got episodes that just have a couple things in here. Now, let's stop this. Just for kicks, and I always forget if this matters or not, but I'm going to comment out a couple of these things here. So I'm going to comment these out. And I didn't put ID on here. I wonder if I need to say that this is the primary key. Is it key? I think key or primary key. And I'm going to need to have a reference to the annotations. This is probably what it's going to tell me. Look at that. I mean, using for data table annotations. I don't know if I needed that or not, but let's just not mess around. Let's try this again. Okay. Yeah, we know about the breakpoint. We know about this one. Oh, look at that. And I forgot to store the history anywhere. Well, get history doesn't do anything. It inserts it. You know what? Watch this. So let's just find out. Let's just go right over to here and see if it entered the data. Oh my God, it worked. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your applause. So what does that let me do? That doesn't let me do much, but that's okay because that's like the first step, right? I can access the database. Now I'm going to get rid of this. And what I really want to do is I want to use the, so I'm going to put some notes in here. This actually can be a good place for me to keep notes of what I'm going to work on. So what I want to do is I want to use a repository pattern. God, I got to be able to type. Repository pattern. These will be like our coming soon things. Repository pattern. I want to use the unit of work pattern. And you know what would be cool is if I could display this stuff on the website as well and say like, so what are the things that we're going to be doing soon? I think that would be cool. But of course, I don't really have a way to do that yet. So anyway, and then, but essentially this isn't so far off here. So if I go now to, let's see, I got too many things going on here. Oh, and I'm in debug mode too. So let's get rid of that. All right. You know what I should do? I should be checking in my code because it works. Basic EF stuff working. That's good enough for now. Let's check that in, and I'll push that up to the server. And that should be fine. I wonder if it's going to give me one of those conflicts that I have another change up there. Yep, failed to push. The reason it failed to push, my guess is because I changed my YAML file and I need to see the changes from the server. So yep, I have a couple changes that I made. I'm going to pull those down into my local, and now I'll do a push, and it does a merge and it combines all that stuff for me. So those were changes that were made on the server directly, not in my code base here, because they're part of the YAML file. So, what was I going to do? I was going to look at closing some of these things. Oh, another thing I need to do is set up DB context the .NET Core way for DI, right? We're going to have to enable dependency injection. We're going to have a whole bunch of stuff going on here. And so I needed both ends of this application to work. I need the database access and I need the front end. And now what I'll be able to do is connect the dots in between these. And if I look at my orchestrator here, really, I can change this right now to be, again, this is going to be baby steps here. I could say I want to do context dot episodes and I can do a to list. This will be really lame. And I can say var history equals this. Okay, now then what I could do is take those episodes and pass them right out. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to try to get one more thing done real quick. And so I'm going to go into my Solution Explorer and in Model, I'm going to have another folder and I'm going to call this, let's see, not in Model, but I'm going to have another folder. I'm going to call it DTO. And I'm going to use the term DTO pretty loosely here, but I'm going to say we need a new, and I'm going to call it show history DTO.cs. And I'm not going to get too carried away with this, but let's just do this. Public class, and I'm going to say has a, I could really just kind of copy some of these things from here, because it's going to be the same for now. But there's a reason to do this. The reason is you don't want to take your model and expose that to the client, right? And eventually, and what we're about to do is turn this over to the client. Now, the reason we don't want to do that is because there are going to be fields in here that the client doesn't care about. In this case, specifically, these audit fields aren't necessary at all. And there's other stuff we might not want to show in here either. But, so it's a good practice to get started with right off the bat. In this case, I have a show history DTO, which is coincidentally exactly the same as my regular object. And what I want to do now here is I'm going to say return a list of show history DTO. Okay. And I'm baby stepping my way into this thing. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say results equals new show history DTO. And then down here, I'm going to return results. Okay. And of course, that won't do anything because I have this list here. So then what I want to do, and I'm going to do it in line right now here, I'll say var DTOs equals new list show history DTO. And I'll say for each var episode in history. And I'll just simply create a dtos.add new show history DTO. And in there, I'll say ID equals episode ID and title equals, episode title, and details equals episode details. Okay, and if I do that, I can return these results. Now, this is not the final product. Okay, I will say right off the bat that this needs to move out. We'll come back to that later. We'll talk about why, but we really want to have the single responsibility principle. And by doing all this stuff in here, this is not single responsibility at all. I've got a context in here, and I'm getting the episodes, and then I'm converting them into something else, and I'm breaking best practices there. So what we're going to do probably in the next episode, now that I think I got some plumbing going, is show how to use single responsibility principle and the orchestrator pattern. I like that as a name, by the way. I'm going to write that down. Episode 4, demonstrate single responsibility principle and orchestrator pattern. Okay, so, but let's see. Since I did this, let's just see if I can get the results. I'm going to say var history equals this. And I should see the results in here. It'll just have that one stupid show in there, but that will get the point across. And then, and there was none, a successful build expected. Forgot my semicolon there at the end. Easy to see when it's off the screen. You know, a lot of people have standards at their organization that say you can't go past a certain number of characters on a line. I don't do that, but I'm kind of curious to know what other people think about that. Should that be a standard or should it not? So here we go again. Let's do... Okay, here we go. And we get the history. Come on, baby. And there's 0 in the history. What did I do wrong? There's one object in the thing. What did I do wrong? Episodes. Let's see. I list them. This should have had them. For each DTO, add the DTOs. Oh, wait. Then I know why, because I have DTOs is this thing. This should have been results. I don't need this. I can get rid of this. Say results. Oh, that was a bummer. Because I think this would have worked. Try it one more time. And then I'll be able to say that in about an hour, it's 1 o'clock, so it's pretty much an hour. I added some database connectivity, although not as thoroughly as I would like. But let's just see if this works. Oops. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Let me just refresh this again because I hit the... And look at that. Yeah, there's that great object there. Isn't that cool? And of course, we're not doing anything with it, but we will on the next show. So I think I'll wrap it up there. If you're enjoying this, and I hope you are, please feel free to comment on during the stream or comment on YouTube on the archive. I would hope and I would appreciate it if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching there, or if you're on Mixer or Twitch, you can follow my channel there. and then you'll get notified when we're starting. I'm doing this Wednesdays at noon Eastern time, which is UTC -5. And hopefully you get a taste of what's going to be coming in the next couple episodes because of the notes I was writing in here, that we want to start using the repository pattern and unit of work and things like that. And really sort of making this look more like a real application. But an hour is a short period of time, and it goes by pretty quickly. So let me just take a look real quick and see. See how we're doing here. So, all right. So I think that's an hour. I gotta get back to my real job, and I imagine you do too if you're watching along. So I would say thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.